koutou, no mai haere mai, and welcome to Frogs on Friday, New Zealand's employment market update. First of all, apologies, we're a little bit slow kicking off today. It has been a day for technical difficulties, but hey, at least we're at Friday, nearly there to the weekend. And we're looking today at overcoming end-of-year burnout. So how can you transform that burnout into a good springboard for the year ahead? And we're joined by Workplace Wellbeing CEO Jo Fife to discuss why addressing year-end exhaustion is crucial, the main factors contributing to burnout, and how proactively managing it may help you avoid potential career setbacks as you step into 2025. Also on today's show, we'll talk about what the latest labour market stats from Stats NZ mean for job seekers and employers as we approach 2025. We'll go through our hot jobs across New Zealand as well as abroad in Australia and the UK, and finish off with our social media insights, and particularly looking at how many Kiwi workers have reported feeling burnout this year as the year comes to a close. So let's jump into Mahi Media. Okay, so the labour market stats came out this week, so of course had to be the topic for Mahi Media today. And unemployment rose 0.2 percentage points to 4.8%, and that's the highest since December 2020. Now, of course, we expected a rise, with the thousands of redundancies in the public sector alone. Something had to give, obviously. But if you are looking for a silver lining, at least it didn't rise to the 5% mark as expected. Also in the stats, wage growth slowed from 4.3% down to 3.8%. And that's kind of showing the usual lag with inflation cycles. So dare I say it, inflation has been tamed and is sitting nicely in the middle of the sweet spot between 1% and 3% at 2.2%. However, the ripple effect from the US elections could, of course, throw a spanner in the works there. So businesses and individuals would be wise to make the most of stable interest rates while they last. Laugh. It's all a bit heavy, isn't it? I wish I could be talking about shorts in the office or emojis or something a little less heavy, but hey, at least the sun's shining today. For those of you on the job hunt or thinking of dipping a toe in the employment market, let's take a look at this week's hot jobs. Okay, first up we have an outbound sales rep role. This one's based in Auckland and is a temporary position. And it's good to see this company is continuing to add to their team and build throughout the summer and into the new year. So this one, you're following up on warm leads and booking an appointment. So it's a bit of a mix between customer service and a little bit of that sales element as well, and being able to convert the leads into appointments. If you're interested in this one is based on the North Shore, I believe. If you're interested in this role or want to find out more, get in touch with Kirsty in our Auckland team. Okay, and the perm job for NZ this week is an operations assistant role in Mount Wellington. This one's paying around the 60,000 to 62,000 mark, and I know that there's a bunch of benefits on top with this particular employer. This one you'll need working in the role, you'll be processing orders and focusing on dispatch, and your attention to detail and ability to work in a fast-paced environment is really important for this role. Again, this is a great company to work for, and it's something that will look great on your CV and also comes with a lot of different benefits and a great place to work. If you're interested in this, give Scott a call to learn more. Okay, and let's take a look at some of the sample of jobs that we have in our overseas offices. So again, we've got branches all across Australia and also in London in the UK. So for Melbourne, we have a personal assistant. This looks like a temporary role, paying between $38 to $45 per hour. Plus, of course, you'll get the super on top of that. Legal assistant also in Melbourne, that's a permanent position. And for the UK, a customer service manager. As always, if you are thinking of making the move, get in touch with the team here at Frogs and we can point you in the right direction, or search for people to people and you'll be able to see the relevant consultant for what you're looking for. Well, you probably noticed it's a bit of a bumpy show today, so perhaps I'm feeling a little bit burnt out myself. So very pleased to have Jo Fife join us today, the CEO at Workplace Wellbeing. Welcome, Jo.
Thanks very much, Shannon. Nice to be here.
No problems. Now, of course, we're looking at, it's that time of year. I think I said to someone in the lift earlier, you know, how's things going? Oh, at least we're nearly towards the end of the year. Hang on in there. We can get there. So it is starting to bring out those feelings. And we've seen, so we did a recent poll through Frog Recruitment, and we found that over 67% of Kiwi workers are feeling more burnt out at work now than they did at the beginning of the year. Now, perhaps it's not so surprising, but you know, with such a high number of people feeling this end of year fatigue, why is it important for professionals to address burnout proactively rather than either ignore it or just try to push through?
Oh, look, there's a couple of reasons for that, and we actually did our own surveying as well and had exactly the same sort of response. In fact, those that agreed or strongly agreed that they were tired and overwhelmed over the last 4 weeks was 85%, and
Wow.
over 50% cited them as work being the main stressor. But I guess the problem that we have with pushing through is that the minute you actually stop and have a break, you know, and I'm sure that a lot of you have actually found this in the past, is when you stop and then suddenly you actually get sick. And the first part of your holiday is actually spent exhausted, not feeling well, not engaging fully even in your time off, which means that you really only end up with a very short downtime at the end of your holiday where you finally relaxed enough and actually getting to the point where you're good, and then suddenly it's time to go back to work again. So the more we can actually manage our energy levels, I guess, and manage those factors that create burnout throughout the year, the better we're feeling at the end of the year to be able to really have a great break and be, you know, recharged and ready to hit the beginning of the year running.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I've actually got I've got the day off on Monday, so maybe I've hooked on to something there and tapering, you know, introducing a few extra days to ease into it rather than, as you say, how often does that happen when you go on holiday? You're excited about it, and as you say, the first week's wasted because you're too sick to enjoy it because you've taken that moment to stop.
Well, because you've just pushed it too far during the year, and it's just trying to get that balance, isn't it?
Yeah. And what do you think contributes to it most, that end of year fatigue?
Well, I think at the beginning of the year, we're always, we've had our holiday, we've really, we're refreshed. A lot of us actually, set some goals and think about our New Year's resolutions, and we're kind of excited about, the year starting, and we've spent time, we've been connecting with others, we've hopefully had some fun, and we've had some downtime, and we're often also a lot more active, and we're out in nature, so we're feeling really good when we start the beginning of the year. And and if we don't continue to do these things, and we do tend to drop off with a lot of the things that we do when we're on holiday throughout the year. And if you don't keep some of those things in place, then, it stands to reason that as you get closer to the end of the year, where you haven't had a break for a while, that, that the pressure's usually on as well. One, you've often got workload that ramps up to get projects finished before the end of the year. You have all your personal stuff at the end of the year leading up to Christmas, and we've sort of got all this extra pressure at the end of the year as well. But we don't have the energy to deal with it because we've expended a lot of it through the year. And so we always tend to feel a lot more tired at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I think this year as well was probably an extra effect, because maybe at the start of the year there was a little bit of that anxious anticipation on what's the market going to bring, is it going to improve, is it going to get worse, and then actually living through that market and trying to keep going and keep it ticking along day by day. So, and that can wear you out a little bit by the end of the year. So
we've also had a lot of change. We've also had a lot of change this year. So, post-COVID, there was a lot of change in how businesses were operating and how we worked. And some of those changes were really positive for people, but some of them weren't. And some people can deal with change better than what other people can. But it does mean that there's a whole heap of extra energy gone into those changes. And so I do think that this year is a particularly bad year. We're certainly seeing that with the companies that we're working with. Now,
I don't want to focus on the negatives for too long, but how does a lack of support for employee wellbeing in the workplace contribute to increased burnout across the workforce? And I guess on the flip side of that, we'll try to make it positive again. What can we do differently to be able to help that situation?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. So I'm going to sort of tackle it in two parts, because you've kind of got the individual, if you like, and then the workplace. And from an individual perspective, if you're in a role where you really love your job, and part of your job is what you're really passionate about. And what happens is we're our own worst enemy, because we're so desperate to do a fantastic job that we can often become perfectionists in what we're doing. And that level of perfectionism can really impact our how we feel over time, because we often push it way too far, work way too many hours than what we perhaps should be, because we're just wanting to get that job perfect. And often good is good enough, and it is for most people. And that extra level of perfectionism, we see it, but nobody else does. And so I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. But in a workplace, there's things like contributing factors are often the way that managers operate, or an organisation itself. So the things that contribute there are things like having a lack of autonomy or control over your work, a lack of recognition, just not feeling appreciated, poor communication within an organisation, and often if you're an unsupportive work environment, but also if your values don't quite match up to the company. So there's a lot of things that we can do that actually can make a difference individually, but also in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and ask for your top tips for individuals. So how they can, anticipate that this is likely to happen and what they can do about it. Top tips for individuals, and also for businesses. What are the things that they can do to make sure that they're setting up their employees for a good end of year and also a great start to the new year?
Okay, brilliant. We'll start with employees. The first thing is setting boundaries, and setting those, having our own personal boundaries. And there's just times when you might need to say things like, I'd love to, but I can't. Setting boundaries around, what gets done out of hours. When your emails, whether you check emails after certain times, and often it's our own individual, it's ourselves that do it rather than the workplace. Sometimes it is the workplace that has that expectation, but having really clear boundaries around that work-life balance. Practicing self-care, so that's the eat, sleep, move, and relax. So the more that you eat well, making sure that you get a really good sleep, getting that exercise to keep your brain and that energy going, and taking time to relax, particularly relaxing your brain to avoid that burnout is really, really important. But also being able to communicate your needs. So being able to speak up about what you need in the workplace, being able to have those one-on-one conversations with your employer, particularly when you're at a time where there might be a little extra pressure at home, and that you need to be able to manage and navigate around that. So getting that really good communication. So from the employer, I'll go straight to communication just on that one as well. So is having that open communication, having those regular check-in conversations, just checking in. And if you notice that somebody is struggling a little bit, being able to say, hey, we've noticed that you're struggling a little bit, what can we do to help you? So creating that supportive environment for that individual to help them to manage through. Being able to having those regular checking conversations, but recognizing and reward, I think, is a really big thing, because often if we are working really hard and doing a really great job and no one notices, what happens? You get to the point where you're just like, well, what's the point? And we don't feel good, and it just makes you not want to try. So really important to show appreciation for what somebody is doing and really look at that recognition and reward. Promoting team building and team connection. So team connection has a really big impact, I guess, on how everybody feels in the workplace. The more connection you have with the people that you work with, the better that you feel, and the less likely that you are to get burned out as well. And I would also say educating. And I think that part of the problem is education, and that goes for the employees who, if you really understand stress and burnout and how to get around it, you can really help yourself quite a lot. And if the workplace actually, provides some of those resources and has, workshops and webinars, which is what, a lot of what we do, and we do a lot of stuff on stress and burnout, and, make it fun, do things like wellbeing challenges to make it fun, but educate at the same time. And it also really helps to embed some of that knowledge that you might have learned along the way, but also the managers, understanding how to have a good check-in conversation, because there are right ways and wrong ways to do it, and being really clear about what that looks like, so that the person you're having that conversation walks away feeling supported and having that weight off their shoulders, rather than thinking, well, that was a waste of time, or just not even bothering to talk to them because they just didn't feel that it was approached well. So making sure your managers understand some of those basic rules of with employees, so that employees feel comfortable in the role that they're in.
Fantastic. Well, you more than stood up to the challenge there of being put on the spot. Some fantastic tips there, and your details are on the screen now. I'm sure there'll be lots of resources and people who can help point you in the right direction to do a good job of your well-being at work. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm definitely going to take some of those tips on board.
And take this break to absolutely think about your priorities for next year, so that you can start the year really well. Really encourage you to do that.
Will do. I'm sure all the listeners will as well. Thanks so much.
Very much, Shannon.
Let's take a look at the social media polls from last week. Okay, so we obviously anticipated the topic for this week and asked, are you more burnt out? As you know, you've just listened. Over 75, now I'm dyslexic. 67.5% said yes, they're more burnt out now than at the beginning of the year. So now you've got some tips to be able to help manage that and set yourself up for a good start to the new year. Let's see what our poll is this week. Do you think that Kiwi workers should make more of a fuss over their working conditions? Now, I think Jacob's just put this in to stir up a little bit of controversy, so we'll see if he's able to do that. But again, always interesting to see what you think here, and we'd love to hear your comments as well. That is it for today's show. Thanks so much for joining us again. And of course, make sure that you're looking after yourself and end the year well. See you next week.